Welcome to Esoteric Thoughts. It may be a surprise to some, but the King James Version, being the most common Bible in circulation, mentions unicorns. Though most modern translations have since completely omitted it or replaced it with other words, the King James Version uses the term unicorn a number of times. Some will argue that it's a mistranslation, but let's start by going back to Jewish folklore about a story in the Talmud and midrash about Noah and the flood written before 500 CE, but through oral tradition is much, much older. The basic Noah flood story is the same as that of the Bible, but here we will explore the complementary rabbinical text supporting the Old Testament. Right before the flood, a unicorn was brought to Noah by a giant called Og, who is mentioned in the Old Testament. The unicorn was a colossal animal, such that it could not fit in the ark, so Noah tied its horn to the outside of the ark, allowing it to swim next to it. Only the tip of its nose could fit inside, but it was enough for it to breathe and be fed. The giant Og also survived the flood by sitting on the unicorn's back for the duration of the flood. In rabbinical literature, Og was not destroyed at the time of the flood, for according to one legend, the waters reached only to his ankles. Another tradition states that he fled to Israel, where there was no flood, while according to another legend, he sat on the rung of the ladder outside the ark, and after he had sworn to be a slave to Noah and his children, received his food each day through a hole made in the side of the ark. Midrashic texts famously record that Og was the only survivor of the Great Flood, aside from Noah and his family. The Talmud states that the rain waters of the flood were actually boiling hot, yet the rain that fell upon Og while he held onto the ark was miraculously cool, allowing him to survive. Og's survival is hinted at in the verse, "Only Og remained of the remnant of the Rephaim," Deuteronomy 3 verse 11. The unicorn legend explored here is found in the Talmud, where a legend was developed that depicted the unicorn of great size being ridden by a giant. The Hebrew word of this animal is reem, which is translated as unicorn, gazelle, rhinoceros, antelope, but is said to be the name of an animal of such size that it could not enter the Ark of Noah, but had to be fastened thereto by its horn. In the Bible, some theists describe the unicorn as a monstrous creature related to the Leviathan. The words monoceros or unicorn is used to translate the Hebrew word, allowing for a wide margin of interpretation. This discussion of unicorns in the Bible is particularly interesting because of what it shows about the history of the Bible. Unicorns may not actually be mentioned in the Hebrew texts that make up the Hebrew Bible, but the fact that they are mentioned in some English translations of the Bible shows how far removed most Christians are today from the original texts that they hold so sacred. For the Bible literalist, this is difficult to explain. Some theists argue that in Job 39, 9-12, that the unicorn, whose strength is great, is useless for agricultural work, refusing to serve man or plough the valley. Thus, an imaginary fantasy animal would have defeated the purpose of God's illustration. The Bible describes unicorns skipping like calves, traveling like bullocks, and bleeding when they die. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of the unicorns. To show how easy it is to misinterpret these myths, there are still believers who believe that the Bible as it exists in English today is the absolute, literal, inerrant word of God, and make some spectacular arguments in defense of the existence of unicorns, not understanding the origins of their own text or translation, or that the story is mythology. Here we have mythology in rabbinical literature complementing the Torah or Old Testament about a flood event that did not happen as per the biblical text. Thank you.